Okay. What's kosher? Oh, we could. I know. Like, yeah. Yeah. God, my hair. Okay, thank you so much. All right. Time for 131. Okay. I would like to call to order the October 6, 2021 meeting of the TPA Citizen Advisory Committee. The Palm Beach TPA is conducting this meeting both in person and virtually using the Zoom webinar platform. Instruction to join the virtual meeting as well as contact information for assistance are provided in the published meeting agenda. Staff, can we call roll at this time?
So I want to remind the members present in person to hit the button on the base, and when it's red, it means you're on. And please state here if when I call your name. Ryan Rossi,
Here.
Michael Fitzpatrick,
Here.
Cheryl Snyder,
Here.
James Garvin,
Here.
Mark Bruner,
Here.
Ramona Bean,
Here.
Paula Ryan, James Bonfiglio,
Here.
Richard Vasilati,
Here.
Michael Carter, I believe he'll be absent from the meeting. Mark Forrest. Okay, he will be absent from the meeting. Vijay Mishra,
Here.
Francisco Gill. Myra Newman is absent. Terry Brown is absent. Greg Fagan. And then I have vacancies still for Belglade, Green Acres, Lake Worth Beach, Palm Beach County District 4, Riviera Beach, Albert Richwagon. We marked as absent until he joins, and then Wen Dang here. We have a quorum, Madam Chair.
Okay, excellent. Are there any modifications to the agenda?
Yes, Madam Chair. TPA and FDOT staff are asking for removal of action item 2B to allow for additional staff coordination on the project. And we expect this item to come back before the CAC in December. And item 2B is for the Atlantic Avenue widening project. So we're asking for that to be removed, and we'll bring it back in December.
All right, thank you.
And then additionally, we would like to reorder the agenda to hear information item 3B, the lane elimination project update first, to allow FDOT staff to present and go to other meetings.
Okay.
I
Are
have
there?
point of information about the agenda.
Yes.
On, for instance, 3A is listed as an informational item, just clarifying that a motion for action can be generated from an informational item.
Yes,
Okay, thank you.
you're welcome.
Okay. Are there any changes to the minutes? Okay, if there are none, I'd like to have a motion to adopt the minutes as presented.
Motion to approve, Mark Bruner. Motion to
Second,
approve.
James Garvin.
Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 All those opposed, nay. Okay, motion carries. Are there any general public comments at this time? As a reminder, there are 3 ways to provide public comments for using for this meeting. Written comments may be submitted online and at the website provided in the agenda. Verbal comments may be made by a virtual attendee by using the raise hand feature in the Zoom platform. And then lastly, verbal and written comments may be provided by an in-person attendee submitting a comment card available at the welcome desk in front. Are there any comments received?
Not at this time.
Okay. So moving on to 1E, comments from the chair and member comments. Today, the CNU is hosting their events around town. If you guys see them, that'll be great. If you can join them, you're more than welcome. It's ultimately to talk about different developments and projects that was highlighted in the downtown West Palm. There is one more day tomorrow. You can find that information. If anybody's interested, please contact me. I do have information on that. So at this time, I want to invite any CAC members' comments that on items that's not already on the agenda. And for anyone who is participating remotely, please use the raise hand feature on the Zoom platform. Do we have anybody?
I do not have any hands raised, but I did want to note for the record that Francisco Gill has joined us.
Okay. All right, are there any member comments present in the room? No? Okay, so moving on to the CAC liaison report, I'd like to invite Jason to provide update on this item.
Good afternoon, everyone. So in your packet, you'll see a full list of the liaison report items. There's about 13 items, but I'm just going to cover a few of the highlighted ones that may require some action by some of the members. The first one is the TPA media release form. We have 7 out of 19 completed, and we'd like to just reach out and encourage all of the members that have not completed it to do so at their convenience. This is it helps the TPA with creating photos and video highlights of the work that we accomplish. And if you're a part of it, the media release form provides consent to use the photos. The next item is the TPA committee census update. That's another action item for if you haven't filled it out. Please do so at your convenience. We have about 16 out of 19 of the responses from committee members. And this is also an item that helps the TPA with collecting data on diversity for the members of the committees. Also, the FDOT is holding a public workshop for the draft tentative work program for fiscal year 23 through 27. And this is an important document that we utilize to craft the TIP document. And the DOT will be having a meeting to view the document and provide comments on October 19th at 6:30 p.m. This can be viewed both virtually and in-person options are available. So you can go to fdot.gov/topics/FDOT work program, and then it's another / with WP public hearings. And lastly, the TPA just finished up a COVID-19 impacts on transportation summary report. So with that being concluded, we have posted it on our website. So if you want to learn more about the impacts of COVID and the complete study, you can go to palmbeachtpa.org/COVID-19. And that concludes the presentation.
All right, thank you. Moving to item number
Madam
2.
Chair, just to note for the record, I do have Albert Richwagon that joined us, and then I don't have any public comments on that item.
Okay, thank you. Moving to action item 2A. Motion to recommend adoption of Amendment 2 to the TPA fiscal year 22 to 26 Transportation Improvement Program. So I'd like to invite Jason to present on this item.
Okay, so this is amendment number 2 of the Transportation Improvement Program for fiscal year 22 through 26. It is amendment 2. The first one was the roll forward for the FDOT projects, advancing funds for projects from the previous TIP to the new one. This one is specific to one of the projects in the TIP that needs to be adjusted. And the reason why this is before you today, I'll go over those on the next slide. Oh, here we go. So TIP amendments are brought for specific reasons or that trigger TIP amendments, and those reasons are listed here on the slide. The first being if a if a project is being added or deleted to the transportation improvement program, or the cost increases more than 20% and $2 million, or there's a change in the scope where the length changes by a half a mile or 20% of the project, or the number of through lanes is affected. As with all amendments, the only impact to the transportation improvement program is the project being presented as part of this amendment, and no other project within the transportation improvement program is affected by this action. Only the project listed in the amendment is affected. And so with that, the project before you today is the Northmore Neighborhood Various Locations Project. And this has to do with sidewalks throughout the Northmore neighborhood. And the action here, the reason for the amendment is the increase in length by about a half a mile. And that's because 2 of the small local roadways was omitted from the project. And specifically, those 2 streets are Greenwood Avenue from 39th Court to 45th Street. And the other street is 39th Court from Windsor Avenue to Greenwood Avenue. So these were just like an administrative error was overlooked, or it was an oversight on the part of the scope of the project. It was planned to be a part of it, but it wasn't written up that way. So they had to adjust the length of the project to accommodate it. And that triggered an amendment because it's over a half mile. So that's what you see before you today. There is a small bit of design funds that are also included as part of this amendment. And that is just roll forward dollars that would have been incorporated in the first amendment, or the amendment 1 for the roll forward. So that concludes the presentation for that amendment.
Okay, thank you so much. Are there any public comments on this item?
No, Madam Chair.
Okay. Are there any discussions, or does any staff, committee members have any questions on this amendment? Okay. All right, seeing none. Can I get a motion to recommend? Oh, thank you. That was very quick.
Second.
And we have a second. Thank you, Michael. So we have a motion and a second. Can we do roll call?
Yes, and just for clarification, I had a motion by Albert and a second by Michael Fitzpatrick. And the motion on the floor is to recommend adoption of amendment number 2 to the TPA's fiscal year 22 to 26 tip as presented. Ryan Rossi,
Yes.
Michael Fitzpatrick, Cheryl Snyder,
Yes.
and then Michael, because your microphone was off. I have that you said yes.
Correct.
James Garvin,
Yes.
Mark Bruner,
Yes.
Ramona Bean,
Yes.
Paula Ryan. I don't believe she's joined us. I want to double check. Nope. She will be marked as absent. James Bonfiglio. Richard Vasilati,
Yes.
Michael Carter. Again, I don't believe he's joined us, so I'll mark him as absent. Mark Forrest. He will be marked as absent. Vijay Mishra,
Yes.
Francisco Gill,
Yes.
Myron Uman is absent. Terry Brown is absent. Greg Fagan joined us virtually. And I think you're still trying to connect, Greg.
Yes.
Thank you. Albert Richwagon,
Yes.
Wen Dang.
Yes.
It passes unanimously, Madam Chair.
All right, thank you so much. 2B is removed, so we're moving to the 2C, motion to recommend adoption of the resolution to requesting timely submittal of FDOT's fiscal year 22 to 27 draft tentative work program to the TPA. Again, I'd like to invite Jason to present this item, followed by FDOT staff.
Okay, for this particular item, we have a resolution before you today, just acknowledging a few points about the draft tentative work program, and that is we made a few bullet points that we would like to have the draft tentative work program in a more timely manner to develop it and do some analysis and present it to you after that analysis. And because of the timing, we won't receive it in time to present the full document to you and our analysis. So this resolution will go to FDOT with those points as you see them on the screen here for section 2. It acknowledges, these particular points A and B of requesting them to submit it within at least 2 weeks prior to the advisory committee meeting, so we could analyze it, digest the information, ask questions, get feedback, and then present that to you. At this current time, we don't have that, but we will be presenting that to you in December. But I don't have available. We don't have it available for you for presentation today. And so that is the kind of the nuts and bolts of the resolution. And as part of that, I believe there'll be a presentation from the Turnpike, possibly, to go over the Turnpike projects.
I'm a little confused. The resolution for to ask for additional 2 weeks, but we're also going after, or we're going to go over this package right here.
Yes, so the Turnpike does have their particular part ready, but the
Okay.
overall work program that has all of the FDOT projects and all the TPA priority projects that would list the funding and show us where they're at is not available and will come in a week or two after the committee meetings have already passed. However, the Turnpike does have their projects, and so they're able to present their portion of the work program.
Right, and I think maybe Ryan, we're probably looking at each other and saying, what are there contingent on each other? Can we discuss the timely resolution first before we go into a healthy discussion about this, or do we have to have both?
I believe it's your choice. I
Yeah,
don't-
and yeah, so it to me, it seems like the action item right now is, should we, as a committee, have this discussion and to whether if it's 2 weeks is adequate time for staff and committee to review documentations, right? That's an action item that it's next time, if there is something that's coming in, we allow ourselves 2 weeks to review. That's one action item. The other action item is, are you looking for an approval of this package? Or if it's an information item only, then maybe we do a two-parter. Would that work?
I'm looking to see what the actual,
Yeah.
So, Madam
and it
Chair,
is-
if
so
Yeah, I think maybe the clarification for the committee is, what is the action item being asked?
yeah, so the action item is a motion to adopt the resolution to request timely submittal of the information for the work program. which
Okay,
is on
perfect.
FDOT. Aside, and that would be a separate action. In addition to that, Turnpike would present their projects.
Okay,
So we could take that action now. if you
yeah,
want,
I
and then
think,
Finish that up and then follow with the
Right.
Turnpike presentation.
I'm sorry, and just as a reminder, you need to turn your microphone on. Thank you. And you can bring it closer for me too, please. Thank you. Yeah, James, I'm sorry, you turned your microphone off. When it's red, it's on. There you go.
We're not voting to approve this multi-page, two-side printed document that we just received before the meeting today. We're just asking that the FDOT submits their tentative work program. Is that my understanding?
That's correct.
Okay. 'Cause
okay.
I'm
And you'll see
uncomfortable-
that in December when I present the entire work
Okay.
program. And
So
the
why don't we do a
analysis for that.
two-parter for this particular item so we don't cloud our discussion? And just a point of clarification for anybody who's watching our committee here and also virtually, the action item in front of us is requesting a resolution to support a resolution that allows not only the TPA staff, but committee members and general public at least 2 weeks to review any future documents that's coming in. So are there any discussion on this item as presented? Michael?
My question is, why for the delay? Is this because FDOT is like the big dog and has no respect for the TPA? Or is it because they have staff problems? Is this an ongoing issue?
It is ongoing, but the reasons vary year to year. I think at this time, they're finalizing the amounts that they receive from the district to program to the projects. And so they're just in the process of doing that now. They did request for us to move our committee meetings later on in October to accommodate that, but we chose to keep our committee meetings as, on the schedule as is. And so we just happened to miss out on the dates of when it's being released and the committee meeting. So it didn't really line up that way, but we'll still present this information to the governing board this month, but then you'll see the same information in December because you'll still see it. It just, the timing worked out to where the committee meetings happened before I'm able to get the information, put it together in a report and provide it for your review. So you'll still see the information. It's just coming late and the reasons seem varied year to year, really.
But if I heard you correctly, you're saying this time the reason is because farther up the food chain, they didn't know how big the pot of money they were going to be able to divvy up.
From the discussion I heard this morning,
I'd like to invite FDOT to
yeah,
respond to that
they
question.
could
Thank you so
probably
much.
shed a little more light on this.
Good afternoon, John Podzerwinski, Florida Department of Transportation. I am the liaison supervisor. So I'm not the expert on the work program response here, but my understanding is the allocation of federal dollars just came in a few days ago. And we are in the process right now of figuring out how those dollars exactly get programmed per the MPO, or per the TPA's priorities. And we are not fully prepared with that work program at this point to publish it. So my understanding is the resolution is a prompt requesting DOT to expedite that in the future so that we give more notice. And I think DOT typically, if we're able to, we would agree with that.
Okay, thank you. Ultimately, when we make this decision, it will allow us more time to review the documents. Okay. Are there any other discussion present in the room or virtually?
I did have a hand raised, but they put it down.
Okay, thank you.
I do have Richard Vasilati with his hand raised.
Oh, okay. Chair recognize Richard.
Hello, thank you. Is this just specifically for the Turnpike draft tentative work, or is this going to also affect other future DOT projects?
It would be for all projects. It would be for FDOT projects and Turnpike projects.
Okay. And trying to get a more timely submittal of whatever future project may happen or that should have happened already. Trying to get this going a little bit quicker. Could that be possibly detrimental and something we're not actually seeing at the moment? If that makes sense. Like trying to rush something too quickly when, hey, maybe DOT does need a little bit more time to work on something.
Yeah, there's no adverse impacts. We're just trying to get it more timely so we can provide it to you during the regular committee meeting scheduled meetings. So there's no adverse impacts. They are taking their time and they are putting it together and will provide it to us. It just doesn't happen to line up with the dates here, but nothing would be, it wouldn't adversely affect or impact any of the projects that will come with the work program.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and the other point is the fiscal year begins on October 1st, right? So ultimately, DOT received this information at the first of the month. So our meeting, and what I'm hearing is our meeting is the first Wednesday of the month. Ultimately, that doesn't give us enough time to have anything prepared. But by the time this information comes back to us in December, we will have 2 weeks in December to review these documents. Right, Margie?
I have another hand raised, Mark Bruner.
Okay. Mark?
Yes, you touched on the item that I was going to mention, which is the October 1st fiscal year. And there was a quick mention of scheduling the October meeting. And if this is in fact an important enough issue that which should be presented and discussed in October, is it possible to reschedule regularly reschedule the October meetings for later in the month of October to give DOT time to do that, to give the CAC and the TPA the opportunity to review and discuss them? Is this if this situation is going to keep recurring, you know, we can ask them to change, or we can look at the things that we can change. That's my comment.
Yeah, thank you. I would defer to the TPA, but I also believe that the board meeting, the TPA government board meeting is also at the end of the month. So there's quite a bit of, there's 3 committee meetings at the beginning of the month, which is the advisory committee. And towards the end, the 3rd week, is it Margie? The 3rd week of the month is when the board meeting. So I don't know if we can, but I'll defer to the TPA staff.
So we'll keep an eye on that for next year when the cycle comes around again and when they're planning on releasing it, and then kind of make a judgment call then of when they can get it to us and when we could turn it around and provide it to our committees.
Okay, are there any other comments? Okay, can I get a motion to the adoption of resolution as presented for the timely submittal of FDOT fiscal year 23 to 27 draft tentative work program to the TPA?
I make a
Motion,
motion.
Mark Bruner.
Okay,
Second.
okay. I have Mark making the motion and Ryan as the second. May I have roll call, please, Margie?
It would help if my microphone was on. Yes, and if you can please unmute your microphones when I call your name. Ryan Rossi,
Yes.
Michael Fitzpatrick,
Yes.
Cheryl Snyder,
Yes.
James Garvin,
Yes.
Mark Bruner,
Yes.
Ramona Bean.
Yes.
I don't believe Paula Ryan has joined us. I just want to double check. Should we marked as absent? James Bonfiglio? Richard Vazzalotti?
Yes.
I don't believe Michael Carter has joined us, so he will be marked as absent. The same with Mark Forrest. I don't believe that he's joined us, so he will be marked as absent. Vijay Mishra,
Yes.
Francisco Gill,
Yes.
Myron Uman is absent. Terry Brown is absent. Greg Fagan,
Yes.
Albert Richwagon,
Yes.
Wen Dang.
Yes.
It passes unanimously, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much. All right, so now we can move on to part 2 of this. I'd like to invite the Turnpike.
Yes, thank you very much. Yes, my name is Carol Scott and I'm with Florida's Turnpike. Victoria Williams is not here today. She's your normal, your regular MPO liaison. So she had a conflict. She actually had to present our work program to another MPO today. So I'm her backup. So you have me. So I just wanted to thank you for the opportunity to present our proposed year projects for the next 5 years. Okay, so the Turnpike system, we are a statewide facility. We have about 551 miles in Palm Beach County. We have about, I think it's about 60 miles from just north of the Sawgrass Expressway of the Turnpike Main Line up to just north of Indiantown Road. Our mission is to help meet the state's growing transportation needs, ensure value to our customers, and protect our investors, and also manage the Turnpike system like in a business-like manner. And with that mission in mind, we do adopt the Florida Department of Transportation's vital few core areas, which are improve safety, enhance mobility, and inspire innovation. So we are FDOT. However, we do receive our funding differently. So our revenues and the way we spend our revenues is quite different than DOT District 4. This slide illustrates that. So our revenue is collected from toll and concession revenues at our service plazas. We do not receive any revenue from gas tax or other taxes. And according to our bond covenants, we must pay for operation and maintenance costs first, and that includes the cost to collect and process toll payments. Then we pay off our debt on the bonds that we issue to construct our major projects. And I would like to note that due to our high credit rating, we do historically have benefited from some of the lowest borrowing costs in the toll industry. So we get to pass that savings along to our users. And then the next step is we invest in renewal and replacement. That's like our resurfacing projects that you've seen in our work program in the past. And then finally, we use the remaining funds to pay for capital improvements such as widenings and interchanges. So we have various ways of determining how our projects get funded according to the project type. All of our projects have to demonstrate a transportation need, and then they're prioritized accordingly. Our widening and interchange projects are ranked in priority through an annual effort that looks at observed traffic data and also future projections across our system. And our expansion projects must meet environmental and economic feasibility. And of course, throughout the whole process, we value stakeholder input. So digging into the projects. So you have received the, I think as you mentioned earlier, it's the 18-page document. So the Palm Beach projects, they start on page 9 and go to page 12. So this document here, it covers all of the Turnpike projects in DOT District 4. So that's multiple counties. So for the next 5 years, we are investing about $2 billion in DOT District 4. In Palm Beach County, that's $1 billion that we're investing. Then a lot of the projects that I'll describe today, if you were part of the CAC last year, you have seen a lot of these. They're still in our work program. However, we do have 2 new projects that I'll be highlighting and pointing out that they are new to our work program. So on the slide, we have kind of the southern half of our projects. It's the project south of Southern Boulevard. We are going to be making improvements to the West Palm Beach Service Plaza parking. We'll be adding car and truck parking. We're also making an interchange improvements at Boynton Beach Boulevard, primarily the northbound ramp and the ramp terminus there. The next 2 projects are new to our work program. So we're making drainage improvements from north of Glades Road to north of Atlantic. That's actually, we're going to be stabilizing the Lake Worth Drainage District Canal Bank. And no, that's a mouthful. And constructing a bulkhead. So that's going to help our widening project, which is just on the 4th line in the table right there. We're going to be widening the turnpike from north of Glades to north of that L38 canal. So those projects are related. And then the final project on this slide is a transportation systems maintenance and operations project. We're adding auxiliary lanes from the Palm Beach County line to north of Glades Road. That'll help the traffic flow between those 2. You know, that's just right where the Sawgrass Expressway is. So it'll help the traffic flow between those 2 intersections. Then the final 4 projects that I'll be highlighting today, these are widening projects that we have from around Southern Boulevard and north. So the first project on this slide, however, this is a partnership project that we have with DOT District 4. And we're widening the Beeline Highway from North Lake Boulevard to Blue Heron Boulevard. And that's in coordination with our widening project from Okeechobee to Beeline. Because we're widening the turnpike, we have to replace the bridge at Beeline Highway. So while we're replacing it, we're going ahead and widening it, and then also widening a portion of Beeline Highway. And then the following 2 widening projects will go from Okeechobee Boulevard North all the way down to the West Palm Beach Service Plaza. So we have all the phases, including construction, funded for those as well. And the DOT central office, so the main DOT in Tallahassee, they actually are issuing a new website this year for the work program public hearings. Typically, all the different districts around the state have their own public hearing website. Well, the Department of Transportation is consolidating those into one. So that's www.fdot.gov/WPPH. And then there's a way to get to your individual district. So if you want to look, there'll be a District 4 subpage, there's a Turnpike subpage. And so there'll be more information to check out if you'd like to check that out when they're live. I think ours is going to be live later on today. I think D4 is coming up a little bit later. But with that, I can take any questions.
All right, thank you so much. Are there any questions on this presentation? James.
Yes, in regards to the beeline widening between North Lake and Blue Heron, is that due because current capacity is exceeded, or is that just for cost savings and expectation of future growth?
That would be a District 4 question. I mean, so that widening of the beeline highway, that's a District 4 project. I'm not sure where they, like the reasonings why they're widening it. We're funding that part because it's coinciding with our project to widen the turnpike, but I guess they can get back to you. Okay, yeah. I'll send that question to District 4 and ask.
Ramona, yes.
Thanks for the presentation. Tagging on what James just asked about, I'm also keenly interested on the beeline highway part and any of these widening projects actually in general. Are they affecting any of the communities that border the turnpike? Like, are they going to have to work within communities to get more room to widen on those parts?
So the turnpike, we have a considerable amount of right of way. The people who built the turnpike in the 50s and the 60s, or I think it was up to the 50s in this area, they purchased a large amount of right of way. So our projects are within our own right of way.
Okay.
When I do have VJ and Michael Fitzpatrick with their hands raised.
Okay, VJ.
Yes, Madam Chair. So the question I have is on the 2 new projects that have been added to the list. Can you expand on the improvement to the Lake Worth Drainage District? Like, what's the goal? Is it something similar to that is going on right now from the Lake Worth up to Boynton Beach, the similar improvement you're talking about to the drainage?
I will have to get back with the project manager for the specifics on that. I know when we widen, I think what we wanted to do was to make sure that canal was in tip-top shape, so to speak, but I need to get those specifics and I can communicate them back to Jason and he can send that back to the group if that's okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Michael? Oh, Michael Fitzpatrick.
First of all, just a clarification, it says West Palm Beach Service Plaza. I always thought of that as the Lake Worth Service Plaza. Is it the correct name, West Palm Beach Service Plaza?
Some of our service plazas, I think they kind of go by 2 names. I think that's the official name. We also have just north, we have the Port St. Lucie Plaza, but some people call it the Fort Pierce Plaza. So I think the official name is West Palm Beach, but I have heard it referred to as Lake Worth. That's the same one.
I've recently looked at, but I haven't read it yet, a FDOT manual on electrification. So my question is, when will there be fast charging electric vehicle charging at this West Palm Beach Service Plaza, and where would it be located?
There is charging there today.
Really?
Yes. We have gone through the process and we've added electric vehicle charging stations. Some are Tesla branded, some are the regular fast charging, and they're located, I have to get that information and send it back. I don't know exactly where they're located at West Palm, but I can get that and send it over to you.
The reason I'm asking, because I'm a retired fire lieutenant paramedic, and it seems like people are trying to put them next to the gas pumps, and to me, that would be great balls of fire.
No, they range. I visited, I forgot which one we visited recently, but they're usually It depends on the plaza, honestly, and the configuration. I mean, up by in Orlando area, they're on the side of the restaurant building. And another one of the, I think at Fort Drum, which is further up, they're kind of at the end, not right by the gas station. So they are separate from the fuel area.
Thank you. Another question I have is what's the status of the, I think it's 3 turnpike corridors up around the bend in Florida. I think they're going north-south through cow pastures and panther habitat and stuff like that. And our gas tax money is theoretically going to pay for that. What's the status of that?
So I think you're referring to the multi-use corridors of regional economic significance, the MCORS project, and that was something that had been proposed and was in statute. And that statute was repealed last year. So
They're
it's
dead in the water?
Yep. They
Good
have
to
been
hear.
repealed.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Are there any other comments from committee members? I have a question in reference, and I know that there are a couple of members that's interested in the Beeline project, seeing that construction dollars is set for fiscal year 23, which is essentially next year, or this year, right? No, next year.
We are in
next year.
fiscal, 22
Yeah.
right now. Yes.
I guess, are there any details that you could share with us for the sake of our other committee members? That'd be
Yes.
helpful.
Yeah, I will send that question to our counterparts at DOT District 4 because it's their project that we're giving money towards.
Right.
So, yep.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and we'll send that to Jason.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so we're moving on to our information item. 3A, lane elimination project update. I originally brought this topic up because fortunately for me, I have a lot of knowledge on the process and traffic engineering, and just because I've been doing a lot of work in this field, I think it'll be really helpful for other committee members to really absorb what other cities are doing. How is this being determined? What does that mean? And so I requested that DOT comes before us with an information agenda item to help us better educate ourselves and understand the processes of these type of projects. So is it Chan that's on the call online, Margie?
Yes, Madam Chair.
So at this time, I'd like to invite Chan Wong, FDOT District 4 Lane Elimination Coordinator, to present this item at this time.
Yes, hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, okay, good afternoon. Good afternoon, my name is Chan Wong. I am the District 4 Lane Repurposing Coordinator. I'm here with Raj Shamugam, System Analytic Group Supervisor. We will be spending a little time to talk about our District 4 Lane Repurposing Review and Approval process and how it is related to the FDOT Complete Streets policy, its review schedules and coordination efforts. And we will also include a couple of examples from our past applications, one approved and the other denied, and share some of the lessons learned with you. Next slide. Do I control the slide or, okay.
Sorry, my microphone. Yes, you can use your arrow keys to advance it. If you're unable to, I can advance it for you.
Yeah, I cannot. Yeah, hold on. Yes, I'm sorry. Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
So FDOT implemented a complete street policies back in September 2014 to promote safety, quality of life, and economic development in Florida. To implement this policy, the department will routinely plan, design, construct, and reconstruct and operate a context-sensitive system of complete streets. Lane repurposing is one of the tools that can help achieve the goals envisioned by the complete street policies. So lane repurposing, previously known as the lane elimination, is the repurposing of existing travel lanes on a roadway to make room for other modes such as pedestrian bicycles or for other safety, static or on-street parking features. The objective is to support the local government and community vision and to promote improved safety, quality of life, and economic and environmental outcomes in the affected community. It is usually initiated by the local municipality in coordination with MPO and county, especially if local funding is needed, The review team in FDOT is multidisciplinary, including staff from planning, design, traffic operations, modal development, and permit office. A typical lane repurposing request could take 12 to 18 months, sometimes up to 2 years, depending on the complexity of the proposal or how soon we receive the supporting documents from the applicant. And this is just the planning phase. The design and construction phases have their own procedures and a process and schedules. Typically, the design phase happens when our design team takes the conceptual plan recommended by the approved proposal and move it to the detailed design. It usually begins at the tail end of the application process. So lane repurposing is a 3-stage process. Stage 1 is the initial meeting with applicant, which is the city, and other affected agencies. The purpose is for information gathering to let the applicant tell us what the proposal and vision is on that particular corridor. The department in turn will outline what we want the city to consider and analyze. So the first meeting is also an opportunity to identify if there's any fatal flaw that would be detrimental to the facility and safety. Stage 2 begins when the applicant submits the technical concept report, which includes detailed traffic analysis and other considerations, which I'll talk about next slide. And FDOT and other agencies will have the opportunity to review and evaluate the proposal in detail at this stage. This stage takes the longest time in the application process, as there will be several rounds of reviews and respond to comments. And if at the end we find the report sufficient, our comments fully addressed, we will go to stage 3. Otherwise, the department would not recommend sending the proposal to FDOT central office in Tallahassee for approval. And the stage 3, which is the final review and the subsequent submittal of the formal application for the proposal. At this point, the proposal has been fully vetted and evaluated and has been determined to be viable. The applicant has also gone back to the city commission to get their endorsement and has done the public outreach efforts to assure the department that the proposal is a supported project from the local government perspective. Okay, next slide. Sorry. So this is the list of key considerations and criteria we use to evaluate the viability of a lane repurposing proposal. And first and foremost, we want to make sure that the proposal is safe for all users, including pet bike, car, bus, trucks, etc. And it has gathered the support from the local community and city commission through a resolution. And of course, the application has to demonstrate that there is committed funding plan for this proposal. Other key considerations range from capacity and congestion analysis, crash history, design, variation access, impacts on transit, freight, adjacent businesses, environment, evacuation, and emergency response. One thing I couldn't emphasize enough is the importance to keep all stakeholders informed and coordinated to avoid dealing with surprises. This applies to coordinating with our local partners and agency as well. This slide shows which local agency we need to keep involved at each stage of the application. I'm going to present a couple of recent lane repurposing application examples. One that was successful and the other not so much. The one that was approved 7 years ago and completed its construction 4 years ago is the Hillsborough Boulevard in Deerfield Beach. This was a 6 to 4 lane repurposing project, a rather short segment of a major artery that runs through downtown Deerfield Beach. The goal is to improve safety for all modes of travel and promote sense of place in the downtown district. As you can see from this lane repurposing is just a part of the overall triple R project, which starts from west of I-95 to US 1. Project elements included buffer bike lanes, sidewalk, raised median decorative lighting, enhanced landscaping, median access modification. This is a before and after picture of the project. Key success of this application I want to mention was the continued support from the local government and sustained outreach efforts to the affected stakeholders and communities. And aside from a good concept report that dotted all the I's and crossed the T's. The other example, not so successful example, is the recent lane repurposing request on Broadway Avenue between 24th Street and 45th Street in West Palm Beach. I'm sure you all are very familiar with this application. This was generally a 4-lane to 2-lane with a two-way center left turn lane proposal. The goal was to revitalize and encourage economic activities in the area, enhance safety for all modes of travel, promote multimodal connections. And this corridor has high transit ridership, also experience high crashes involving pet bike. This is the location map and the current conditions of the roadway. And this was the proposed concept at that time, 2-lane with 2-way center left turn lane. So after many iterations of review and discussions, both internally within FDOT and externally with the city and other agencies, and also additional analysis evaluation performed by us, we came to the conclusion that the negative impacts outweigh the positive ones, and the negative impacts are actually very significant. Particularly, there will be significant traffic diverted into the adjacent neighborhood streets. Our analysis also showed that there will be an increase in congestion, travel time delay, and vehicle queue length at the intersections. So because of the elimination of one travel lane in each direction and vehicles in the single lane behind stop buses may form long queue, some may use the 2-way left turn lane to bypass the queue for bus and potentially create an unsafe conditions. Another thing we found out from our analysis is the regional mobility could be impacted by the proposal as well, as significant regional traffic uses Broadway Avenue to traverse between area to the north and downtown West Palm Beach. So unfortunately, these types of significant negative impacts were not clearly presented in the submitted report. So for all the above reasons, the department did not support the lane repurposing concept as proposed. However, all is not lost. FDOT is currently working with the city to come up with a design concept that does not involve lane repurposing, but can still have some, if not all, of the complete street elements as previously envisioned. So stay tuned on this project. So as you can see from the two previous examples, some lessons learned from our past experiences, here are some keys to a successful lane repurposing application. Early and sustained communication with all major stakeholders at every phase of the project. Have a local champion to see the proposal through from the beginning to the end. Be really mindful of the project schedules to avoid time crunch events. Be clear and transparent to the public about all potential impacts of the proposal, whether they are positive or negative. And last but not least, we should always be open for discussion on challenging issues. And with that, I conclude my presentation. Raj, do you have anything that you'd like to add?
Thanks, John. I think you did a wonderful job. So I'll wait for any questions to answer the questions, please.
Yeah. Thank you so much for your presentation. At this time, does any committee member have questions? Michael Fitzpatrick.
So when Broadway went wrong, was that during the stage 3 public input?
That was stage 2. We are still reviewing different iterations of concept report submitted by the city.
So you reviewed it and said, look, this traffic's analysis says it's going to flood out the local roads. People are going to go around it.
Correct.
Okay, and that's when you decided to pull the plug.
That was one of the major reasons, yes.
Okay, and the other comment is that when you had the Broadway negative impacts, maybe it's an old man thing, but the red was hard to read.
Okay, I'm sorry, yes.
Yeah, just a thought. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Does any other committee member have comments? No? Okay, thank you so much. This has been very, very educational.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to item 3B. This is a requested item from last meeting. It's the ability to create an ad hoc committee to investigate specific subject areas of interest. I'd like to invite Jason Price to present this item.
Okay, so I just have a few slides here that I'm going to go over from our previous CAC meeting. We wanted to discuss this item, but we wanted to formalize it and make it an agenda item so we could discuss it. So with the slides here, I'll go over what I have for you today about creating an ad hoc committee, followed by Michael Fitzpatrick. He'll also have a presentation following mine. So the first part is from our TPA operating procedures. What you see on the slide here is directly from that from time to time, an advisory committee or an executive director can form an ad hoc committee for the purposes of investigating specific subject areas of interest. And ad hoc committees should report back to the advisory committee that formed it on their activities at the next available meeting. So it is possible to create one. So one of the considerations was the sunshine law. And so for that, we reached out to our legal, and they provided us some insights here. And so a committee is not subject to the sunshine law if the committee has only been delegated information gathering or fact finding authority and only conducts those types of activities. And so with the caveat that you need to be careful to discuss anything that might come up for a vote to the CAC. So outcomes of an ad hoc committee could be report back to the committee member findings to the CAC, and if necessary, additional work can be done based on the amount of effort. And here's a few options here. On the option to request TPA staff to administer a work order for small items to do maybe further investigation after the fact finding is completed by the ad hoc committee. And then the other one is the option for a large scale research with widespread interest to be added to the strategic plan, which is a plan that we manage here and that directs some of our additional activities. So here's some of the steps that I've outlined here is defining the purpose. If the purpose will be for fact finding or have a decision making angle to it, which would involve incorporating it in under sunshine laws, then creating the membership, discussing the coordination of how you would coordinate once the membership is established, and then report back to the CAC, and then the CAC next steps if necessary, if you wanted to take it to further investigation. And so those are the brief slides that I have on the ad hoc committee. And now we're going to open it up to Michael. He'll provide his presentation, and we're looking for your input to gauge interest in joining Michael in creating an ad hoc committee in some form or not, and investigating a topic. Michael.
Okay. Before I get started, I would just like to thank Jason and the rest of the TPA staff for an even-handed approach in support of this initiative. Being a former city commissioner from Boynton Beach, I can cite many instances when city and CRA staff had their thumbs firmly on the scale of policy and parceling out selected data. So to this TPA staff, I apologize if I got a little worked up. from past experience, I had some low expectations, but you did appreciate it, did well. As you will soon find out, you can read this better than I can say it. So, but I guess I have to. Proposal to create a PBC TPA Citizen Advisory Committee ad hoc committee for the purpose of writing a research paper examining how the August 5th, 2021 White House aspirational goal of 50% of all new passenger vehicles be powered by clean energy by 2030 succeed in Palm Beach County. Okay, this is the first line says it all. President Biden outlines target of 50% electric vehicle sales shares in 2030. The rest is kind of yada, yada, yada. So this is the book I mentioned last time. It got me thinking about the approach. Our target audience, of course, will be the governing board of the PBC TPA, which is composed of 15 mayors and commissioners, 5 Palm Beach County commissioners, and 1 Port of Palm Beach commissioner. This is a rough outline, a rough draft. I didn't, of the approach I believe we should take, I did not include executive summary because that is a given. This, let's see. This is from DOT, Florida Department. This is one of the things that we could use as a reference. And then FPL, what is FPL up to? The answer is they are, what my understanding is they want to install 1,000 charging stations as a pilot project to run for 3 years. How many charging stations and where in Palm Beach County? That's what we could find out. And then you have the information International Code Council, which I believe is what pretty much the Florida Building Code is based on now. And one of the things they recommended in January, which I guess you can't read there too well, is EV ready new homes, which means basically an extra space in new home electric panels for another 240 volt breaker and an empty conduit running to a dedicated electric box, an appropriate location in the garage. So when somebody gets ready to go electric, it is a straightforward job to add the breakers, pull the wire, and mount a charger with no remodeling problems. So these were kind of examples of things which are going on now, which we could collate together. All right, so if you got a goal, what is the goal? So we would need to pretty much define how we know we're there. And of course, anything that's going to talk about changing something, you need to know what could go wrong. But it's too much to dwell on right now, but that would be something we'd have to work on, to be announced. A list of, so examples of what we could come up with is a list of things that the mayors and city commissioners and county commissioners could do in their towns. So like lead the way, get 25% pretty soon, and say by 2026, 27, their purchases in the cities could be 100% as an example of what we could end up recommending. And another one would be to adopt the ICC recommendation for residential charging stations. Now, this committee here doesn't really have the expertise to do this, but as Jason pointed out, they could be done with staff, or we have companion kind of advisory boards, which are composed of staff from the cities. And if they don't know how to write policy, they literally sit next to somebody who does. So I think there'd be some collaboration there. And a case study of Norway. In September, this last month, 77% of all new cars sold in Norway were battery electric vehicles. So how did they get there? And this was kind of a roadmap of, it's too small for you to read, but just year by year, what Norway did to get where they are now would be worth checking out. And there's another one. And asking the unanswerable. So we're starting now. You wouldn't be able to answer all the questions that are going to be asked. For instance, when will we 100%? It'd be nice to make a graph, but No, we don't know that. And then a big question is B, we want all the shareholders involved. And so what's going to happen to gas stations, gas station owners, fuel truck drivers, ICE car mechanics, and so on? Well, nobody has the answers right now, but that's something, and probably in version 2, if we go ahead, you would want to be thinking about. Let's see. And then brought up was like the gas tax. At what point is that electric? Are there enough electric cars to make a difference? All right. I like that movie. Just kidding. Little cursory laughter would be appreciated. Thank you. All right. So our minority report is when we have input with shareholders, there are going to be differences of opinion. And there are several reasons why I believe these other opinions should be included. The first is one of the objectives of EV objectives, as in not liking to EV adoption, look pretty lightweight and flimsy when actually written down in a coherent manner. Secondly, this approach, as Jason pointed out, is highly encouraged by the Sunshine Law Handbook for investigating committees. So we're not narrowing down the scope of what the governing board can look at. And then thirdly, they might be right. The future is unknown, so let's have everything in there. So, and the other part is appendices, which will our target audience actually read this far? Unlikely, but some secondary readers will. And a major impediment to EV adoptions is answers to frequently asked questions. So we could have, like, what is an EV battery and how they are changing, which is considerable. And then electric motors are not your grandfather's electric motor at all. They have some now that fit in the wheels of each wheel of a car, so it can go in reverse while the other ones are going forward, and get like a tank-like control, stuff like that. So, and then how would you get from Fort Lauderdale to Atlanta? Well, I have a fellow retired firefighter who does this many times a year, and he'd be willing, I believe, to write a little note on, or with pictures on, what he has to do that. So those are kind of a rough idea of what I think we should be looking at to get us from here to 2030. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Are there any questions from any committee members for Michael Fitzpatrick or Jason at this time?
I do have VJ with his hand raised.
Yes, VJ?
Yes, Madam Chair. So what I understand from the presentation is that the ad hoc committee is going to be made out of this committee member, or is it going to be from other committees?
From my understanding, that is comprised of members of this committee.
Okay. And from the reference that has been made about the sunshine, which probably most of us on the committee know that it's a very finicky kind of a law that sometimes gets on the wrong side. We don't want to do that. So from staff perspective, there is no issue with this ad hoc committee being of the committee member and doing the research which Michael is looking to do.
Can you restate the question?
So just want to clarify from the legal perspective again, from sunshine law perspective, there are no issues on this one.
Let me just answer.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, everyone. Nick Uren, Director of the TPA. The scope of work that was proposed by Michael Fitzpatrick would go beyond fact-finding and information gathering. If you're going to be making recommendations to the committee, you're going to have to filter between alternative recommendations. So any work that this subcommittee would do would have to be regulated by sunshine law, which is not an obstacle that's insurmountable. But it does mean that if you want to serve on the subcommittee and draft a paper filled with recommendations to achieve an outcome, that you have to commit to not calling each other and talking about it outside of a previously scheduled and publicly advertised meeting. So I think you need to be aware that that's the constraint that we would be required to operate under if you were to elect to create a subcommittee like this. So I just want you as members of the CAC to understand that that's our interpretation and how we would propose to administer a subcommittee like this, because the scope proposed is going beyond fact finding and information gathering.
Yeah, I believe Michael Fitzpatrick have a question.
Well, first of all, I'm a strong proponent of the sunshine law, so I'm not really interested in trying to get around it. But my concern is that if they have, which I sent out in I put it together what I read in the sunshine law, and it was in the backup. Maybe it could be, I'm concerned that we get a wide representation. So if everything is always at a meeting, that some of the younger members of this committee and maybe outside shareholders can't attend, what happens then? I mean, we don't want this report written by a couple of old men. It's got to be multi-generational. So that was my main concern. And then secondly, I sent to Jason a couple of thoughts on how to facilitate the sunshine law, which is basically, I was at FAU getting my civil engineering degree in 2014, and they were using Dropbox. And so to write the reports for each of the classes. So I suggested the TPA spend $100 and get a Dropbox account, which they would be on their server. And then every portion of writing or downloading PDFs of manuals and stuff would end up on the TPA server. So that would be all public record. And then perhaps that the TPA could assign members of this committee email addresses so we could communicate, because then everything would be on their server, and they could put on that nice little paragraph saying this is a public record. And so maybe there's two ways. I understand what he's saying. So maybe parts of this could be divided into two phases. One, an information gathering phase, and then secondly, a recommendation phase. And, so that the sunshine law is followed in all its necessities.
Thank you. Ramona.
I guess I can make a comment and part question. Michael, I appreciate the idea of what you're asking to do, get this type of information. Personally, as a member of this committee, I'm still wrapping my head around our responsibilities. And I was just looking back at the website to see what are we called to do here together. And we're all coming from different walks of life, different careers, different, suspensions of careers if you're a homemaker like me, and all that kind of stuff. So I believe, Jason, if you want to correct me if I'm wrong, I understand that we are to bring the citizens' voice and eyes and ears to this table with anything that we're presented with, especially with FDOT, and any transportation needs between the county, between the cities. We have all these folks representing here and online. So beyond that, I'm not sure that we are equipped to take that extra time, because already I see a lot of time on this, just what we do together every time we meet. So, but correct me if I'm wrong, I believe that's our mission. Okay.
Please turn on your mic.
No, you are correct.
Okay. And thank you. And to end my remark, I'll just say, Michael, I would decline from joining the committee as such. I'll let you know right now, but thank you for the information.
All right, Michael Fitzpatrick.
Well, yes, this is a precedent that this committee has not taken on before. And right up front, I'm not saying it's not a committee of the whole. And I well realize people have different interests, and my interests are not your interests, which is of course fine. I mean, we're all different people. But if I'm willing to put in significant time, I would like permission to do that. And there's other issues down the road that may interest you, and you may have changes, and somebody else hopefully this isn't the one and only thing we're doing. For instance, another thing I'd be interested in after this perhaps is in the back of the manual or our TPA thing is an aspirational goal. There be coastal tri-rail link. In fact, the city of Boynton is passing out extra housing units as a Pez dispenser based on this idea that there's going to be a train station in Boynton, which is complete nonsense now, but it is a good idea. So I don't see, so that's something I would like to put some time in to see if we could using this as a model and go. So what I'm saying is you may have, or other members of this committee may have particular interests that encourage them to want to make a lot of extra effort. So good. I'm not asking anybody to do any more than they want to. I'm just asking permission for me to do it, and it doesn't go anywhere unless it comes back to this committee where it could be voted up or down. There was another point, but I'll wait till it comes back.
Thank you, James.
It seems to me,
James, I'm sorry if you could talk
I'm
into
sorry,
the
yeah,
microphone.
it seems to
Thank you.
me, listening to the presentation and everything you want to do, the ultimate goal of this ad hoc committee would be to affect policy in Palm Beach County, whether it's to encourage or discourage or remain neutral on transforming some of the transportation or all the transportation of Palm Beach County to electric vehicles. With that in mind, I think everything needs to be a public, it has to be done in public, because I think if you're going to do something that would recommend affecting policy in Palm Beach County, that's going to have to be open to the sunshine laws. So if you take this course, my suggestion would be that you get this ad hoc committee and regularly schedule meetings and advertise them so the public has an opportunity to, listen to what you have to say and avoid communicating with each other before these meetings. And it seems it's going to be a whole lot of work for people who want to commit to this. Are we going to do we have the money? Is that something that staff is going to be able to accommodate with all their other things? Because it's going to be, obviously staff driven, since we're not getting paid, but are we going to need an additional staff or two member to deal with this ad hoc committee and what it does and meet the requirements of the sunshine law to give public input and things like that? I don't know the answers to those questions, but it seems like it is going to be an increased financial burden to the county to do this and to comply with the sunshine laws and to have these additional meetings and do this fact finding. So that's just my observation of what you're proposing to undertake. Whether it's good or bad is something else, but that's just my observation. At some point in time, there's going to have to be, I think, serious sit down and discuss, the financial ramifications, staffing ramifications, and the public meeting ramifications of what you propose to do.
Yep. I'm hearing all the discussion, and I'm hearing a really interesting subject, which is EV. And I am an EV owner myself. And so
I'm sorry, when I'll get you a new microphone.
knowing, as discussed by TPA staff and what was mentioned, especially for sunshine law, I'm thinking, is this an independent research exercise or is it a committee action item? And I'm guessing is that would it be subject to sunshine law if Michael himself conduct an independent research and bring that information back to us? It will still appease to us as a committee, making recommendations, maybe help guide some of, giving our opinion, and that would not subject to other committee members to sunshine law.
Well, it seems to me, if he's doing, if it's not a committee and it's just Michael doing the research, that there would be no sunshine law to worry about it, because that's not communicating with members of a public body. I used to do when I was on the town commission in Ocean Ridge, I used to do my own independent research all the time on items that were coming before the commission, whether it dealt with invasive species, or whether it dealt with water retention and control and things of that nature. I would do my own research, and that was not subject to sunshine law. So I don't think anything prevents Michael from doing that. And it certainly wouldn't be a burden on the committee and nor a financial burden, nor would it be a burden on staff to deal with that, other than putting together whatever findings Michael wanted to come back with to the committee.
And if it is an independent research exercise, then anyone can help, right? Because it's not committee. You just can't discuss anything that's on the agenda or upcoming action items.
Yeah, if it's not on the agenda or an action item, he can pick up the phone and say, Jim, I'm looking at this, project, and what are your thoughts about it? And I mean, it's not an action item. It's not something that's on the agenda. I don't think that is prohibited.
I'm sorry, I
Yes.
have two hands raised.
Okay, I'm sorry. If you don't mind, I'd like to acknowledge the other virtual attendees. Who do we have?
I have VJ with his hand raised and also James Garvin with his hand
Okay,
raised.
let's VJ and then James.
So,
Thank you,
Madam Chair, I just want to the reason the first question I asked was regarding sunshine law is because there is always challenges when you try to create a subcommittee of a committee. So my suggestion to Michael would have been that if he can work with one of the staff from the TPA, prepare the agenda item and bring it back, which I think that's what James just mentioned. If that is possible, that way there is no need of communication between the committee member, and he will still be able to achieve the goal of doing some research on this topic and bringing it to the rest of the board. That was my point. Thank you.
Thank you. James?
Thank you. I as well am a plug-in electric vehicle owner. I understand Michael's perspective. I appreciate the fact he's bringing the topic to our discussion and our attention, because I think it's a valuable topic and one worthy of us as community members to discuss. And as far as what could the TPA do in regards to electrification in Palm Beach County? I don't necessarily, I agree that the scope of what you're proposing might be a little outside of what an advisory board should be doing. But I think it's a discussion worth having. So the question is an ad hoc committee the appropriate avenue, or is independent research and continued discussion as a committee a better course of action? So I think the topic is valid and something worth discussing, but the implementation of such and then generating recommendations or ideas to go before the board or for further development by staff is the question, I think.
Yeah. So I'm going to turn it back to Michael.
Okay, I remember what I was going to say before, but yes, I've been on this board like, I guess, close to 5 years. And yes, it is a precedent setting thing. But I was city commissioner for 3 years, and now my political life is over. Political life is dead. So I'm in the afterlife. So what can I do, or what can other people in this situation do useful? And I think what this committee could eventually rise to being is basically to have some impact, because I don't think we have much impact now, is basically end up like being the brain trust, the kitchen cabinet of the governing board. And I think that's needed, because these are disruptive times, and traditional staff ways of moving things forward isn't going to be fast enough. So that's why I was pushing it. So I think this committee is some, just throwing it out there, is that this committee is, because we do represent the citizens, is a good position to raise trial balloons. I mean, if not just this, but any idea, if we can bring up some ideas that kind of look good or, you know, and then they get shot down, well, no sitting politician is harmed. They're just, you know, we can take the shot and keep on rolling because it doesn't matter anymore. And staff is limited. You know, like all the cities, it only takes 3 votes to fire a city manager. They're not bold people. And that's understandable, but I have a pension. Nobody's going to be able to touch that. So I can say and do what I want. And a lot of other people are not tied into the system. So if you bring up weird stuff, it's not gonna harm. But someplace there has to be, there doesn't have to be, but it would be good to have an avenue where new ideas can be tested to some degree. And it seemed to me this committee would be a good place. Now, I'm just throwing it out there. That's beyond the scope of what's going on here. I don't really care. You know, this can be a rolling thing, like start it now and then, you know, maybe I'll get a TIA or something, won't be able to finish. I mean, who knows? So it's like, we'll start it and see what happens as time changes. If you just want it, just an independent thing, I don't care. If I got that stamp of approval that I'm going around talking to people and other interest groups, you know, that's fine. And my envisioning was there might be 2 or 3 people on this committee to be interested in putting a little extra work in. And I'm not saying you have to put in hundreds of hours. I personally don't see this as any harder, actually less harder than the senior research project at FAU. So, you know, that was 5 years ago. I can do it again.
Thank you so much. Your microphone's not working, James. I'll fill the void. I like that you have new ideas. Are there any in this region, in this area, are there any think tank that you know, that could possibly help you answer some of these questions, right? Because the questions that you have are EVs going to change the built environment and the way that we make policies in the future? Absolutely. Just like how Netflix has taken over Blockbuster and Napster killed the music industry. It is going to change. And how do we adapt to it? As a county, as the citizen in this area, you know, some of the questions that you brought up, like the electrical panel, Florida Building Code, absolutely. We all have to go through it so we can put charging infrastructure in a home, right? So, and those are very, very, very exciting questions. And a lot of the discussion that we have, and I want everybody to keep in mind, regardless if it's an electric vehicle or a gas powered vehicle, it's still one vehicle on the road. And the travel demand within our transportation network is still the same. Right. It is. We have, as I see a graph earlier, we're going to hit 1.8 million people in Palm Beach County very soon. That means our roadway network needs to support it. And it becomes more of a geometry question. Can we fit all these people in this space? And that's why I believe in the TPA's vision of building more biped type of environment, because that's how we're going to be able to offset our travel demand and our regional travel. So regardless, you know, and this is my opinion, I apologize if I overstep, regardless if it's going to be EV or it's going to be gas powered, or you have a classic car, it is still one vehicle on the road that's going to take up space. So I do think that, yes, it's a very interesting topic. And maybe concurrently, we should discuss on how do we shift people into using more multimodal type of infrastructures, or even shifting it to transit. You can carry more people with transit. You can, you know, light rail, transit, like what you've talked about earlier, Michael, as far as the, what is it, the tri-rail, coastal trail, the coastal link. Perfect project. I think that project itself aligns with everything that we can do as a committee representing the Palm Beach County, and especially looking at how do we mode shift right? How do we push those initiatives forward so we can mode shift? So regardless if you own an EV or a gas powered vehicle, there's still going to be capacity within our network. So I filled the void, James, so please.
Thank you. You hit the nail on the head, I think, when you said you wanted this ad hoc committee to have an impact on Palm Beach County. And you say, and believe me, I'm all for electric. I mean, I drive electric vehicle. I put a high-speed charging station in my house. I was on planning and zoning in Ocean Ridge for like 15 years. I can imagine what the zoning changes would be, you know, with the hearing, we would have to change the zoning to include a requirement for a high-speed charging station in each house. And, you know, it was only a few $100s, but, you know, you start talking about increasing the cost of building a house, the zoning commissions in the area are going to be up in arms. I'm all in favor of electric vehicles, but the problem is going to be if you get 2 or more people together from this committee to start talking about impacting Palm Beach County, you're going to be talking about policy. And when you start talking about policy, you're going to have a sunshine requirement. You're going to have to meet the sunshine laws, I think. And that's, and I think it's a great idea, but I don't know what it's going to cost in terms of staff and meeting and things like that. Is it going to be small? Is it going to be big? Are we going to have open meetings and things like that every time you have a discussion? That's all. I'm just throwing that out there. I vision that as an issue, not insurmountable. If, you know, the county wants to pay for additional staff to deal with that, that's fine. But that's just my concern.
Yes, Michael, unless Ryan.
Logistical question. Great topic. But once the findings are concluded by the committee, who are those findings going to be presented to? Maybe I wasn't clear in the presentation. Are they going to be presented to the governing board, or do we take a vote on it and then we all submit that we are in agreement of this and the findings are passed along that way? How does that work?
Well, that's my understanding of the sunshine law and stuff, is that if this is a subcommittee of this committee, then report first to this committee, and then this committee would filter whether yay or nay, whether it goes, is approved to go to the governing board. And that would be who would get it? The governing board, which is, like we know, 21 people. However, usually when a white paper or something is released, the press picks it up or something to some degree, and it could be used by a wider range. But our mission as this board is to offer advice to the governing board. So that's who would be directed to. And yes, it would not be one Mike Fitzpatrick going from here to the governing board. You know, it would be come to this committee, and this committee would decide, is this something this committee is comfortable with or not? So then it would go up or not. I mean, that's the way I thought it was going to work. And as far as costs involved, yes, I know virtually all organizations are staffed now to be lean and mean, and there's not extra things to take on. I understand that. And the only thing I could see right now would be if, you know, the sunshine law stuff kicks in, was as recommended, maybe a once a month meeting. I would like to get this done quickly because, you know, the clock is ticking, so to speak. But, you know, what is. So there's this room. I do not want to go to the county. There's this room. There's another room over there. You know, once a month, we could open it up to, you know, like you said, public notice and all, or somebody said public notice and show up, and we could do some work then. And like I said, also, I think there's a certain amount of information gathering stage, and that's not going to be, you know, there's a lot out there, and all these reports just picking out the parts that apply to Palm Beach County. So I don't really think the sunshine law bridge would be crossed right out of the gate. Now, there might be something like, way I see these meetings going on is like a setting, you know, what algorithm, are you going to use, or what parts of the paper are you actually going to have in it? And yes, staff input would be nice, useful in that, because, what's written in FAU and what's written for the general public is not the same thing. So yes, there would be some staff time, but I think the person to ask would be Nick or Jason if, 5 or 10 hours extra a week is burdensome.
Yeah. Can I make a recommendation? I'm not sure if you're are familiar with like TRB and what they do. Every year
No.
they the Transportation Research Board. Every year there is outside the pandemic, there's a conference. About 20,000 people around the world gather in DC and really present on their research. And it's very high level, just as what you're talking about. EVs, there's level 5, which is Lyft itself. These are all automation and very high level research paper. Every year they actually solicit research opportunities such as this. And what they do is like you submit, it's similar to an RFP. You submit in what you want to do. And if and when you get selected, they will fund the whole project. As in, and then ultimately you have a 1-year period to do this research and whatever the way that you engage this. And then at the end of the year, you take that research paper and you present it to next year's TRB, their research board. And I think what you're asking and those questions that you're asking is very interesting. I would make a recommendation that maybe we pause our discussion on this because we're not going to come to a resolution today. But maybe we take an opportunity within this next couple months, because we're not meeting again until December, to look into TRB. I myself has participated in the research of TRB. And so maybe that's an avenue that we can somehow accommodate your requests. Because Michael, I want to, as a committee, we all hear you and we want to support you. But at this time, I'm not sure we're going to be able to come to a conclusion today.
Well, what I heard out of that is let's delay it for 2 years, and which is 2024. And then we're going to try going from like 0 to 50% in 4 years.
The other thing that I can recommend is why don't we take a quick survey of which committee member would be interested in participating in an ad hoc committee before we continue.
Sure.
Would that work? Not a vote, just a survey. If we just do roll call, and it may be a yes, no, or maybe.
Or if you wanted to do it online, we could do it that way.
Oh, that will work too.
Just because there's members that are here.
Oh,
that are
yeah,
not
that's true.
here.
There, I agree. Thank you. There are members that's not here today. That
There's
is not part of the discussion.
Can we get would Nick or Jason be able to say now if something like this took 5 hours a week in staff or 5 hours a month in staff time, whether or not that would be feasible?
Margie, you have something to say?
I was going to say you have a member with their hand raised.
Oh, I apologize.
It's okay. Richard Vasilati.
Hi, Richard.
Hi there. Real quick, Michael, what was the percentage and what year again were you suggesting that Palm Beach County be EV?
The White House has put out that the goal is 50% by 2030.
50% by 2030. Thank you.
And I don't know what the current ratio is now.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, Nick.
Yeah, thanks, Madam Chair. Short answer is we need to define what the outcome is before I can tell you how much work we would have to devote to it. Honestly, if you just want us to manage the logistics of getting people together and then you want to write the thing yourself, that's not a lot of work. We would make it happen. If you want us to write something ourselves that you get together on occasion to review and refine, I would prefer to see that presented as a strategic plan task, a proposed strategic plan task in our annual update, because then we would have board direction to devote staff time and agency resources to the development of that content so that you could review and refine it. And then we really don't even need a subcommittee because we could just present the content as it's being created to the Citizens Advisory Committee at a regularly scheduled meeting and allow you to refine it in that manner. So it really is a question of, do you want to get together and write something yourself and we just schedule the meetings, or are you asking the TPA to devote time, energy, and effort to the creation of the content? In which case I would recommend that you go down the path of a strategic plan task in our annual update, not a subcommittee.
So yes, I understand this. No, I'm fully understand that. I was envisioning if I could write most of this myself, but I don't think that's totally a good idea. So that's part of the reason I would like other people to help out. But it doesn't have to be people on this committee. I mean, the Drive Electric thing I went to on Saturday, there was plenty of other groups who would welcome the opportunity for the chance to get a policy paper in front of the TPA governing board. So I'm sure I can get people outside of this committee to help write this. And if, I just think it would be very good if the TPA was involved in some manner. And yes, I think the way to do it would be to write it first and then let, like I said, let the TPA staff massage the product into an acceptable form at the end, or ongoing, actually. So no, I don't want to add a line item budget thing to the TPA budget.
All right, thank you. Jason?
Well, would you want to take the next couple months, because we're not meeting till December, to flesh out something and come back with maybe a more solidified idea, and we'll pitch it to the rest of the members to see if there's additional people within the CAC that are willing to join, and then that would start the sunshine law process of formalizing the group. That way, in the next couple months, they'll have a little more time. In the meantime, we could do a survey to find out if anybody is interested, or we could wait. So there's more information. So there's a more detailed, refined purpose of the group.
Well, I would like to find out if there's going to be any interest to move this forward at all, because I don't, I'd be kind of irritated to put in 40 hours into something and then find out like, oh, no, I never wanted this in the first place. So, and also I plan to go ask other people in other organizations to help out, and I don't want them wasting their time. So I understand if there was something, if it's a flawed thing, then I understand that, yes, then it dies. But if it's essentially okay, I want to make sure, I want some assurance that this isn't going to be wasted in vain effort. I don't know if I explained myself well.
Right. Well, now there's the additional nuance of bringing people outside of the CAC within this ad hoc committee. And that doesn't seem like, now we're kind of outside the realm of creating an ad hoc committee from CAC members specifically, if there's outside people that may be willing.
Well, who has the expertise? I mean, I've read, if you read 2 articles a day for a couple of years, that's 1,500 articles. So yes, I've done that. But does that mean I'm an expert on it, or I know there's people who put in a lot more knowledge of EVs and that sort of thing. So if you want to write, you're going to have to talk to outside people, which aren't they shareholders? Aren't we supposed to be doing that?
James, you have a comment?
The longer this discussion goes on, I've become more certain of 2 things. One, we're not going to come to an answer to this today. And that the more we talk about, we're stumbling upon questions that are bigger and more encompassing than what a Citizens Advisory Council, I think, is capable of doing. We're talking about building codes. We're talking about municipal coordination. We're talking about, this is a lot of really big questions. And today we're not going to come to a conclusion on what to do next, I think. I think the appropriate thing to do would be to see if there's a survey of members who might be willing to help you, Michael, on this. If not, I would encourage you to take the next couple of months, do independent research, and maybe we put this as an agenda item on a future meeting to discuss later.
Okay, I'd just like to make a comment that EV's coming whether people like it or not. And my hope is to do it as smoothly and as efficiently as possible, because unless there's a plan, it's going to be ugly and disruptive.
And I 100% agree with you. I'm a big proponent of it as well. It is a train coming at us, and there needs to be some coordination and some organization to coordinate this whole effort. So I agree with you. I just, like I said, we have other agenda items today too, and we're getting late.
understand.
And so I think the course forward would be, let's survey and let's continue making an agenda item in the next couple of months.
All right, my point is, if it's not the CAC, then who? Because it's changing stuff. There isn't an effective policy mechanism out there to do this now.
And I think this is definitely a discussion we should be having. And I think it's an opportunity for the TPA to perhaps have an opinion, a stance on. But like I said, I like this discussion. I like this topic. I want to continue the topic, but I think there's some things we need to do between now and continue
Yeah.
this discussion.
I also like to ask staff, how much time do we have left until we must adjourn? Because we do have two additional agenda item we have to go through.
Madam Chair, that's really loud, I'm sorry. We as your staff are here at your discretion, but you will eventually lose your quorum. So if there's any action that you'd like to take, I'm sure some of the members will leave. But we'll hold the meeting until you adjourn it.
Okay, thank you.
Probably also lose enough microphones that have power.
So like between James, Michael, everybody, thank you so much for this discussion. Would it make sense if we pause our discussion? Let's do a survey. Let's see who's interested. And then and at the same time, Michael, would it be possible for you to do some independent research on your own as we can put this back on the agenda item for December's meeting?
Sure, I would like to clarify this, and I don't want to take up any more time, is that I would like to be able to, since you're the chair, I'd like to be able to talk to you about this to see what you think would be appropriate.
Sure, let's have a discussion after the meeting.
Okay.
So we're going to move on to item 3C, the strategic plan action item 6B, modify TPA committees and support of TPA initiatives. Jason, I'll see you on that podium for the rest of the meeting.
Okay. So before you today is an informational item that will come back as an action item after it's seen by the governing board. And we're proposing to realign the CAC operating procedures with what we're charged to do with the CAC. And so I have a few slides to go over to illustrate what the proposal is. And that's to modify the TPA committees to support the TPA initiatives, and that's in our strategic plan, and to ensure the CAC reflects the board cross-section of local residents and ensure that there's adequate representation of minorities, elderly, and persons with disabilities. And so currently, we'd like to recommend the change from a 21-member CAC board to a 15-member board and which would replace the specific governing board appointments of kind of a one-to-one relationship. In addition, would add specific representations for specific groups, which include on the board here, racial minority, Hispanic, elderly, disabled, economic development, construction and development, freight and goods movement, and lastly, private transportation providers. So we would be looking for members to represent each one of these categories in addition to the geographic distribution of members. And we've we've sketched out some borders that illustrate a seven-member board that would encompass all of Palm Beach County. And those are, southeast, southwest, central, eastern, central, western, and the two northern, northern, eastern, and western. And I put together a map of what that would look like. So we kind of sketched out districts. They don't conform to city boundaries or county commission district boundaries. These are boundaries that are kind of penciled out to distribute the population to some degree and also the transportation environment in that area. So some areas are much larger than others, but within those areas, they may have similar transportation elements to them, whether you're on the eastern portion of I-95 or military or the western portion. So, and then keeping in mind the population distribution of the districts, which you see in the graph here too. So nothing is overblown to where it's overrepresented in a single area. So that is the proposed changes to the constitution of the CAC, the member makeup of the CAC. And so the application submitted to the TPA staff rather than appointed by specific governing boards. So you would be able to apply directly to the TPA as a citizen if you wanted to meet one of those, acknowledge meeting one of those criteria and becoming part of the CAC. And all nominations shall be included on the governing board agenda. So they would know who is being nominated. And so how would we transition to our existing structure to a new structure if it was proposed and agreed upon to change? The current CAC members would all serve out their terms, and then you would be able to reapply through the restructured membership makeup. So you are going from 21 to 15, but there are as looking at the current makeup of the group, most people fit one or definitely a geographic area, and some are within specific industries that would also meet. But there's no worry that you would lose your seat because you would serve out the term that you currently have. And so this is an informational item. It's up for discussion. We're just proposing this to kind of realign the CAC membership with what we're being charged to, accommodate as a CAC board, as a CAC committee. And so taking a hard look at it, this would be the restructuring of it just to be more in line with what we're looking for to make up the CAC board, because it has been brought up in the past. And so we've advocated to bring on more members to fill all those seats, but then taking a harder look at the structure and the makeup, this seemed to be something that would make sense and bring forward as an informational item. And then we'll go to the governing board for consideration as an informational item and then see kind of where it lands if it becomes an action item to actually change the structure. So with that, that's the end of the presentation. It's open for.
I have a question.
Sure.
Yes, James.
I've noticed as I became a member of this board that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or 6 seats are vacant. So if you narrow the scope of, and I think diversity is good, but if you narrow the scope of who can apply from different groups, do you realistically believe that you're going to get applicants from those individual groups? I mean, you're just looking at what you're proposing, a racial minority, and Hispanic, a disability, economic development. I mean, are people going to actually apply for these spots?
I think
And
that
that's the problem that I envision. And
Yes.
You're still going to want, your goal of diversity is good, and getting input from all these different sections is good.
Right.
But my experience in local government in Ocean Ridge, it's very difficult to fill these volunteer spots. And especially when you're limiting them to geographical areas and areas of work and development, things like that. That's the problem that I see, and you're going to probably wind up with the same number, if not more, vacant spots.
on the commission.
It could be a possibility. However, what I've noticed throughout the years that I've been here is the one-to-one relationship, the responsibility is on the TPA governing board member to nominate somebody. So the work is kind of left with them to find somebody to nominate within their area. Where here, we're changing it around to where the TPA would really have that responsibility of actively seeking members to fill those seats. And I feel like at that point, because we have a reach into the communities, we could actively look for members in those different areas, be it geographic or in a specific industry, and approach those industries or those geographies to seek out members. I think the TPA could kind of bear that burden of doing the PR part of finding active members in those communities and invite them to join the CAC. That's, I don't know, it's idealistic, but I feel like that's probably.
I'm sorry, just as a reminder, if you can turn your microphone on and you'd have a hand raised.
Yeah, I mean, you've got 5 open seats and that process hasn't worked in the past, so obviously.
Yes.
Just a comment. I
Yes.
don't want to discourage you from doing this, but I think
Right.
I think the diversity is good. It's a good idea to get different perspectives.
Yeah.
I was in Ocean Ridge a long time and we had to work hard to get people to volunteer for the various planning and zoning, board of adjustments, those different boards. And it's just hard to get people. And frankly, I've been in local government for a long time, probably 20 years. And I just recently learned about this commission and I'm pretty active politically and in local government. And so this is a pretty obscure agency. Not the supervisory commission is pretty obscure relative to the general population of Palm Beach County. So I'm not sure that there's that many people that are going to know about it and then are going to be willing to spend time. And then when you narrow the scope down to these various subgroups, it's even going to be more difficult to find people to volunteer. That's just my concern.
All right, thank you. We have 2 raised hands. We haven't heard from Cheryl yet. And then VJ.
Hi, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. So first of all, I have a concern about creating these regions. I know that in Jupiter, we are a little bit different from the rest of Palm Beach County. And I think it's valuable for Jupiter to have its representation on there intact. I would hate to see it split or have parts of Jupiter in one place and parts of Palm Beach Gardens in another place. The North County perspective is a little different. There have been a lot of discussions today about Tri-Rail, et cetera, and Jupiter has a very different view, a lot of the residents do, about Tri-Rail. There's a lot of people who are not interested in having a Tri-Rail station or even a Brightline station. So, I really would prefer to see Jupiter remain intact and have its representation so that it can present its unique point of view to the county. And then, it's in terms of, diversity. I think we need to have diversity to make sure that all the areas of the county are represented and that the different issues that are important for the various areas of the county have the ability to be put forward and considered. And I think that's actually more important than the other factors that were listed. Thank you.
All right, thank you. VJ?
Thanks, Madam Chair. So I want to echo or second everything that James said. Because that's a reality. Pretty much all the time you will find same people are going from one board to another board because those are the people who are going to be participating. So there's always a problem finding new people who are going to be doing this. And I'm glad that TPA staff is willing to go and look for those kind of folks. It's a good thing. But I also agree with TPA staff's suggestion that the membership should be more reasonable to 15, because the reality is that most of these open and vacant positions have been open for quite some time. I got involved because I kept seeing the same request for the membership for quite some time and it wasn't getting filled. So that's why I said, okay, I'll go for it. But the reality is the way right now, the way the structure is, I think there is a way staff could make it more practical, that it's reasonable, because again, the kind of people you're going to find are the people who are already here right now and willing to support the efforts of TPA. It's going to be very hard to find new people to find and then say, okay, would you like to serve on this one? So just a food for thought. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Are there any other comments on this item? No? Okay. All right. Thank you so much. We've
Oh, I'm
got-
sorry, Madam Chair. Richard Vasilati raised
Oh,
his hand.
I apologize. Richard?
Hi, thank you. So looking at the map, I'm seeing 1, 2, 3, 4, seven portions of the geographic boundary. And what is there? There's 16, 15, 16 of us currently on this board, correct?
I think there's 18.
18?
I counted.
Okay, I'm just looking at some of these vacant
19.
spots. So with the current members that are on this board, if this were to go to a boundary type of committee, the people that are on this board currently serving, where we are living or however it's done, do we have members that are in every colored portion of the map now currently serving? Does that make sense what I'm trying to say?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Of all of the members that are currently serving, there is a member in each one of the 7 districts outlined here.
Okay,
In the Glades area?
Well, you see that the Glades area, the western,
Mhm.
goes pretty far east. And I believe you would fit in that category. Richard Vasilati would be the western. You could fit into the western geographic area, I think.
Yeah.
It's a very large area going.
Yeah, congratulations, Richard.
Maybe.
You secured your membership.
Or
happy
maybe
to hear
not.
that.
And,
um,
but, you know, it is a large area that starts on that
West of
board.
Wellington, west by Lion Country Safari.
I'm not that far west, but
Okay.
Yeah, no, you're in the light purple area.
I think you have 2 of us in the southeast, me and
Yeah.
Ryan, right?
And
Me in the
We-
southeast.
do
All
the
3 of us. I'll
do
take
not
I'll
the,
take over
current-
65.
I'm sorry, I believe Richard still have the floor.
yeah, it's okay. That's okay. The current city commissioners or mayors or whomever are nominating, I'm looking at Green Acres, Belglade, Lake Worth Beach, etc. Are they not actively pursuing people to be part of this committee as of now? I mean, if you can't find a city commissioner or a mayor to know somebody and say, hey, like the rest of us, I believe, like such as myself, would you be a part of this? And if you can't find a yes out of their entire city, how would we go to a boundary and then solicit volunteers? Because anytime during these meetings and we're asking for, are there any public comments? No, Madam Chair. There's not a lot of people watching what's going on. And I know there's some people that have been on this committee for quite some time, and thank you to them. I just don't see how you're going to find going boundary people that are going to pop up and say, hey, I'd like to be a part of this. Just a thought. That's why I'm asking if members are all already in these colored areas, then maybe I could see, well, we already fill the spots. And then if somebody else shows up that from whatever diversification you want to do with this, and then maybe if we went down to 15 and then we did find other people, we could maybe increase it to 16 or 17 or 18, maybe work our way back up to 21. And that's it. I'm done.
Thank you,
Okay.
Margie.
No, I think that's everybody.
Okay, thank you. I didn't see the list. Oh, thank you so much. And then I guess we can move on to our last information item of the day, which is the update to the TPA funding program guidelines and scoring system. Jason.
Yes. So I think I have a single slide that is our program workshop kind of advertisement. And it is, so I'm going to present to you the 3 programs as an informational item for the three grant programs that we introduce and administer here at the TPA for applicants to apply for. Local municipalities, transit agencies like Palm Tran and Tri-Rail could apply for. And the three programs here, this is kind of our advertisement flyer for the three programs. And I'll go over a high level of what each one of the programs are. And this is, this is kind of where the rubber hits the road, where we actively look for applicants and put together these programs to solicit projects throughout the county to be funded and implemented throughout the county to improve a range of mobility needs. And the first one is transportation alternatives. It's the smaller of the three, but it has a focus on bicycle and pedestrian facilities, safe routes to school, and safety related infrastructure. It has a total amount per year that we offer, about 3.3 million per year. It has some limitations in terms of a minimum is about 250,000 to apply for it. And there's a maximum for per project of about 1 million. And it's eligible on and off the state road system. So, or on and off roads. So you can do trail systems that are not necessarily on a local road. The next program is the local initiatives program that has a larger amount of money that's being offered per year of 20 million per year, has the same limits in terms of the lower limits of 250,000, but a maximum of 5 million per project. So the projects tend to be larger projects, but they encompass more types of projects. And they'll include complete streets projects similar to bicycle and pedestrian projects that would fold into complete streets, but also have transit capital projects and freight efficiency projects. And what I've seen in the past is SFRTA Tri-Rail receiving funds for new rolling stock for new trains, or the electrification of the Palm Tran buses, which they've been successful at, and us contributing to that effort of converting to electric vehicles. The next program is the newest. It's been in existence informally for a couple of years, but now we're kind of formalizing it and advertising it as a standalone grant program, and that's the state road modifications. And that also has about 20.4 million per year that we have available annually. And the requests are about this, well, are a little higher, 5 million for a maximum and 500,000 for the minimum, but it's on a state road. So the state road projects may tend to be a little more expensive, or you're interacting with just the state roads carry more vehicles. So the projects tend to be slightly more expensive. So the limits are slightly higher, but the types of projects are still complete streets projects, traffic calming projects, and intersection modifications. And that's what we've seen in the past couple of years, is intersection modifications and bringing them up to a better standard to accommodate more mobility, or just a more resilient infrastructure by changing them to mast arms instead of overhead wires. So those are the three programs. Now, with these programs, you'll see on the bottom here, the grant application workshop. That's going to be October 26th, and the deadline is February 18th. I do have a slide for all of the proposed dates that you'll see for the rollout of this program. And all of the grant programs will be official once they are adopted. The scoring system and the overviews are adopted by the TPA governing board on October 21st, this month's governing board. And then following that, a week after that, will be the application workshop. And that workshop, I'll introduce the LI program, and my counterparts for transportation alternatives and state road modifications will be there to introduce those programs, as well as the application submittal process. It will be on Zoom. It'll be invitation where you could come here in person, and it's recorded and then posted on our website for viewing after the workshop to get that information. And then again, the application deadline, February 18th is the application deadline. And prior to that, you'll see pre-application meetings where we'll see applicants come in, discuss the project, and we'll kind of vet it through that and walk them through the application process. Then once that is concluded, you'll see in the liaison report for March of 2022, that's when you'll see the list of projects that were applied for that we are considering funding through this cycle. And then after that, there's a draft priority list of projects that goes to the governing board, and that you'll also see the projects again in July. And between March and July, you'll see kind of going through the vetting process to make sure the projects are eligible and have a sponsor. And with that, that concludes the last item on the agenda.
Hey, thank you so much. Jason, one question on that, those dates though. Usually commission agendas for the grant applications could be submitted after the grant application is due. Is that still something that you or the TPA would consider? Or you need all final documents by then?
The application deadline of February 18th.
Yes.
That would be the deadline to submit a completed application with all of the supporting documentation. And your question is, can you still submit an application after that deadline?
No, not so much as the application, but sometimes resolution takes quite a bit of time to get on commission agenda.
Sure.
And if you have a community engagement strategy that is, during the holidays, it takes a little time to get it approved. So I'm asking if that's being considered.
Yes, similar to the previous years, there are some other dates outside the application deadline of getting resolutions and getting public outreach. The public outreach should be completed by the application deadline to acknowledge that there's public support for the project being submitted. But there's resolutions from governing boards or commitments to maintain and operate the facility that may come after the application deadline. And those are outlined in the application overview. It's about a 5 to 6 page document that kind of detail out what are all the requirements, what are the documentation that needs to be submitted, and what are the additional dates beyond the application deadline for resolutions and those kind of items. That will come afterwards because it takes a little bit to get those types of that information from governing boards that have, regularly scheduled meetings every month. It may take a month or two to get a resolution.
All right, thank you so much. Are there any questions on this item from any committee members? Okay, seeing none. Administrative item. These are information only, there's no staff presentation. And our next meeting is actually in December. So enjoy your holidays. Yes.
Jason, what did you want us to do with 3C? That you're talking about the changing in the makeup of the commission? You want that on as an action item in December? Or what do you want us to do with that?
It's an informational item currently. It'll be presented to the governing board for them to consider taking an action on. So it may return as an action item in December, but at this point, we're just presenting it as an idea, as an information item. And we'll see how it kind of plays out with the governing board and if it comes back as an action.
Great. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Are there any other comments before we adjourn? Nope. All right, meeting's adjourned. Great seeing everybody. Thank you for all those attended virtually.
Thank you.